Okay, hi everyone, good morning. First, a huge thank you to the Your Story team and to Shraddha for that terrific intro. But more importantly, we partnered with Shraddha and with Your Story 3 years ago, and I think we got to know Shraddha about 4 years ago, and they just keep getting better. And Your Story keeps becoming better, and it keeps growing. Now it's hopefully growing internationally, and the TechSparks event keeps getting better and bigger every year. So they've just done an outstanding job over these years, and at the end of my chat today, I will talk about a very specific development out of past TechSparks, but I won't get to that now. So before I begin, I think the Your Story team, the full Your Story team, deserves a huge round of applause. So please join me. And Shraddha, it was awesome to see all that authenticity and your passion for building your story. I think this is what great entrepreneurship is about. And some of the things I will talk about today will hopefully talk in the same vein. So I thought about chatting today about enduring success. And I'll talk a little about why enduring success. But before that, let me quickly introduce Sequoia Capital. We should not assume that the folks here know us. But we've had the good fortune of being in business for 41 years. The firm was started in Silicon Valley. We have significant presence in the US, in India, in China, in Israel. We've been in business with lots of phenomenal companies. We are super fortunate to have a very large percentage of NASDAQ's market cap and some very long-term enduring successes that we have had. Terrific entrepreneurs we've had a chance to partner with. What we are most proud of is not just the financial success, but the enduring success. And I'll explain why in a minute. But I'll also a little bit touch upon what my personal experiences have been. So these are companies that I've worked with personally over the last almost 8 years at Sequoia. And I'm going to pick a few of these today and chat about how enduring success is panning out in India. But why is enduring success so important? This is the Dow Jones list of companies in 1960. I'll get up on stage. And what's incredibly amazing is, look at this. This is the Dow Jones today. So even for the largest companies in the world, enduring success is not straightforward. And the pace of change all around the world is becoming faster and faster. And it is very hard in this changing environment to create long-term success. Look at this. This is recent Sequoia experience. This is our companies that went public in the last 2 years. Just Style in India and the others in the US. And the average time to IPO in all of our companies is now approaching around 10 years. And 10 years in the US market, in a very, very developed market. For the India market, that time could be longer. Not many entrepreneurs that we meet are in the mindset when we meet them in their early days, when they're thinking 10 or 15 years. And this is why enduring success becomes important, because at a time when the Fortune 1000 are not secure in their place in the world, you have these young companies trying to disrupt them, and then you need a 10 or 15 year of rapid growth to actually to build a big business. This is why it has become really, really challenging. And the nice thing I have to tell you today is that there are lots of very interesting examples here in India of people, in spite of all the gloom and doom, like Shraddha articulated, who are doing an incredible job building businesses and building enduringly successful businesses. But I'll talk about a few things that we think help to build enduring businesses. The first I'll talk about today is moat. Moat just means that a business that is very defensible. And moat is a word we use a lot at Sequoia. It's not so commonly used, but what you see in the picture is a fortress surrounded by a whole lot of water. And this is how we think about business. The second is agility. Agility because the world is just changing really, really fast. And companies need to constantly evolve and learn. And knowledge is becoming less important and learning is becoming more important. Culture. Culture because the 10 or 15 years it now takes to really build a business of scale and to build out these moats. Companies that have a strong foundation and a strong culture can have the staying power. Otherwise, just a large number of entrepreneurs are likely to, at some point along the way, say, hey, it's too tough. And lastly, perseverance. Just keeping at it. This is even more relevant for India than anywhere else, because the friction of doing business in India is tremendous. I mean, we have so much respect for all the entrepreneurs, all of you entrepreneurs, and all of our entrepreneurs who deal with all the hardships in India. Everything in India is much harder to do than it is for, say, in the West. Raising capital is harder, hiring teams is harder, going to market is harder, convincing customers to pay you is harder, collecting from them is even harder. And I see some people smiling in the audience because I see some painful experiences that they've been through. But really, perseverance pays dividends. So I will talk about one company each from the ones that I have been involved with to tell you some stories of how some of these elements have helped to create what in some cases are already enduring companies, and in some cases will become enduring companies in our view. So I'll talk first about moat. How do we think about moat? Moat can manifest in many ways for a business. It can manifest in superior technology. It can manifest in network effects, meaning the more people you acquire, the more powerful your business model becomes, like a LinkedIn. It manifests in consumer brands, in product, these days in user experience. Sometimes it manifests in an ecosystem a company can build around it, and if it can connect many parts of an ecosystem and sit at the center of it, then it becomes very powerful. And moat also can reflect in operating models. Operating models can be much tougher to copy than most people think. Operating models mean the nitty-gritties of building a business, how you hire people, how you might train them, how you might compensate them, and so on. And there are some tremendous examples of operating models around the world, like Toyota's lean manufacturing or Dell's direct-to-customer model or Southwest Airlines' operating model that people thought would be easy to copy, but they turned out they were actually very hard to copy. So lots of ways to build moat. And what we tell our companies is to think very hard how they will build moat. But actually the most evolved entrepreneurs have already done this thinking ahead of time. And now I'll talk about a company and an entrepreneur not very well known in India. Many people here have heard about all the consumer brands and the big companies. Today I'm going to talk about a couple of companies that are doing some tremendous work, but that are less well known. And Lokveer Kapoor is one of them. He's the founder of a company called Pine Labs. This is a company based in Noida. I will walk through a little bit of history of Pine Labs. The company was actually founded in 1998, so full 15 years ago. In 2004, Lokveer joined the company. He was not the original founder. And he came on board, he became a co-founder. At that point, the company had built some products. He really liked what they were doing. So he joined as a co-founder 6 years after the company's founding and sort of made it his own. And that doesn't frequently happen. But in that case, we invested in 2009. And actually, we remained in stealth mode for this investment for many years. We have actually never publicly announced our investment in Pine Labs over the years. But after a few years, we put it on our website, and the community knew. But in 2010, the company started to build a payments platform, a cloud-based platform. And in 2011, they built a newer version of that platform. I'll describe in a minute what this is. And they hired a sales team. And in 2013 now, 15 full years after the company's founding, I'll describe in a minute what we are seeing and the network effects and the success that this company is starting to see. But notice this timeline and notice how long it took. And the point I made, Pine Lab stands for moat, but it also stands for tremendous perseverance amongst the best we have seen. Here's what Pine Labs does, because most people don't know what they do. Pine Labs offers a payments platform that sits between hundreds of retailers, banks, manufacturers, and allows retailers to process payments, do loyalty, EMIs, which is allow you to have monthly installments on your credit card, couponing, gift cards, analytics, lots of things for the retailer. And because they connect so many different kinds of systems, they're the only one of their kind. There isn't another company like Pine Labs in India. Here's what they've been seeing lately. Pine Labs has seen more than 5x transaction growth in the last year. 1,000 crore plus a month of payment transaction volumes in India. 10% of all credit card transactions now go through the Pine Labs platform. But this slide in and of itself doesn't tell the story. of the 15 years it took to get here, or at least the 9 years after Lokvir joined that it took to get here. And the success of Pine Labs is made sweet by the fact that now, because of these years of work and the moat built with all these integrations across banks and retailers and so on and so forth, Pine Labs has a very strong position in the payments industry. And they're basically winning market share, which is why they're growing so fast. So this is an example of moat and a company that has really built moat and shown perseverance. I'll talk next about agility. I have some things here. Knowledge, is talked about a lot, but knowledge is about what happened in the past, and knowledge is helpful. Knowledge is very important. It helps you understand the world as people have understood it before you. But learning is even more important. The guy who can learn faster today is more likely to succeed in the future than the guy who knows how the past worked. So learning is about now, it's about the present, and learning makes you better equipped to deal with the future, especially in this fast-changing world. And so we tell our companies to focus on learning. Many a times, we've had board meetings where an entrepreneur said, hey, I'm sorry, this didn't go well or that didn't go well, and we've said, it doesn't matter, we had to go through this learning process. We're iterating, we're becoming smarter, we're becoming good at our business, and it's going to make us far better equipped. Our next year is going to be much better because of this lesson that we just learned this past quarter. And I think as companies are beginning to appreciate that, they're understanding the importance of learning. Fail fast and evolve. Pine Labs had many missteps along the way, and I'll talk about next a company that had many failed product launches along the way, but has had overall pretty spectacular success. And evolve. And the last line is a favorite of Sequoia. We use this a lot internally, which is break it if it works. And this is counterintuitive because most people expect you to say, hey, break it if it doesn't work. But we think, if you don't break it, somebody else will. So, and the creators of companies and of products always know how to do them better. They always do, because every product creation process, every company building process involves people who are deeply passionate and motivated making some trade-offs and choices. And next time around, they want to make those choices differently and they want to improve. So we have the saying at Sequoia, break it if it works. And this goes to the fail fast, iterate, learn a lot, learn quickly philosophy. So I'll talk about Dhruva and Jaspreet, who is the young co-founder and CEO of Dhruva. But there's some interesting stories around Dhruva. The company was founded in 2008. And what most people don't know is Jaspreet was not the CEO. Jaspreet was actually an engineer. And his two co-founders, he used to work for them at Veritas. And then, he did such a great job at Dhruva. He was so passionate. He was writing code for the product. And then, they started taking him to sales meetings. And they found he was incredibly good at it. And he started to step up and sort of be the most important salesperson. When he showed up at a sales meeting, the sales would close. Or at least they'd get the next meeting and so on. And so as he stepped up, his co-founder said, hey, wait a minute, we should make young Jaspreet the CEO. And I think he was 26 or 27 years old at the time. And from there, the journey started. But I'll talk about in a minute how everything was not smooth in the early days. We invested in 2010. I remember at the time we made an investment, it was March of 2010, and Jaspreet was asking me when it would close because they needed money in the bank. So I said, hey, do you have money for payroll? At that time, there were maybe 5 or 6 engineers at the company. So he said, nahi sir, is mahine thoda fight hai. So, I won't go into the details, but he had less than $1,000 in the bank at the time. And so we made the Series A investment. In 2011, Jaspreet moved to the US office to start a US presence for Dhruva. In 2012, it was ranked #1 by Gartner in the category, in the endpoint data governance backup protection category. And now they have customers in 68 countries. 1.7 million devices are protected by them. So pretty incredible story of a guy who wasn't even the CEO and who just joined as an engineer, but his co-founders had the maturity to let him take this leadership role. But here's the product agility. How many things changed? The first product was a product called Replicator, and that didn't work. What's funny is 5-6 years later, now they're going to rebuild Replicator and bring it back, but it didn't work in the early days. And so they built a product called InSync. And then next year, they built, in 2010, after we invested, we encouraged them to build a mobile product. And they built another product called Phoenix that also didn't work. And it turns out now that their customers are asking for Phoenix again. But at the time wasn't right. In 2011, they built a cloud product. In 2012, they built an enterprise product and a collaboration suite. In 2013, they built a data governance product, which is this year. And next year, they're going to launch a data appliance. But just look at the many different things the company did in a short period of time. And if Jaspreet and his co-founders did not have the agility to keep evolving, and they're in a very cluttered market, they would not have had this degree of success. But the financial success, the sales growth is obviously pretty special. But what's more important is that they have figured out how to evolve. And their ability to constantly keep evolving and staying a step or two ahead is driving their success at this point in time, because they compete with mainstream Silicon Valley companies now, and they have to have world-class and better products than anybody else out there. The next I'm going to talk about culture. And culture is evolving in a very interesting manner, because the time horizon phenomena that I talked about is really impacting companies in ways that entrepreneurs, in our view, didn't expect. Because it's just taking a lot longer. For instance, ESOP needs to be rethought in companies, in our view. Because most companies still use a 4 or 5 year ESOP vesting philosophy, but it takes 10 or 15 years to now build a company. So, most people are still using the 90s ESOP plans, if you will. And this isn't an easy fix here, but the one thing about companies that is needs to change and evolve is how they think about the longevity of the team. This is why rethinking ESOP is important. How they think about careers. And can they incorporate learning in the culture itself? Can they incorporate this agility, the sense of being able to evolve in the culture itself? Some cultures are more prone to encouraging the learning and evolution, and others are not. Some cultures are more prone to longevity and to perseverance. Culture actually binds together some of the other things. Some cultures are more prone to saying, I will do what's right for the long term, and I'll make the short-term trade-offs. And so all of that actually boils down to culture. So when I talk about, eventually, the importance of fun and winning in the culture, and winning long-term, not just winning in the short term. As I talk about culture today, after I'm done with my talk, I'm actually going to bring up on stage one of the two co-founders of Mu Sigma. I'm going to bring Ambika on stage, who runs Mu Sigma. Mu Sigma is the world's largest data analytics services company, decision sciences company, and actually now both services and products. And Dheeraj and Ambika, husband and wife team, founded Mu Sigma 9 years ago, and we're going to talk about their story. But just in a minute, Mu Sigma has grown very rapidly from their early days to now having a few thousand employees. They surpassed 100 million of revenues last year. Well, I'll give you some little taste of what's to come in my chat with Ambika in a few minutes. This is Mu Sigma culture at work. This is Dheeraj in his lungi serving lunch to his team members to say thank you. One day I went to the Mu Sigma office. I think a Fortune 50 company was supposed to come that day, and I found Dheeraj in lungi in the office. So I thought to myself, what is he up to? And turns out he had a puja that day at home, and so he just showed up that day, and his customers were around, and he was walking around normally. And I haven't seen that yet in another company where a founder would consider doing that. And Mu Sigma's culture is a lot about authenticity, and it's okay to bring to work what you might do at home, for instance. And that's a little different. Mu Sigma has a focus on learning, for instance. At Mu Sigma, there's an award for best question of the month. If you pose a really smart question, not the best answer of the month, if you pose a really smart question, you win an award at Mu Sigma. So the culture encourages people to challenge you and to ask important questions. There's a disproportionate emphasis on understanding whether people are even asking the right question, because the answer can change, and the answer may be misleading if the question is not right. And they break some rules. This is a Mu Sigma customer who's riding in the trunk of a car, because that day they seemed to be discussing efficiency, fuel efficiency, during a meeting. So they said, hey, why don't we be very efficient in not taking too many cars? And the customer volunteered to get in the trunk. And he was just like, yeah, why not? So this is an example of a company that thinks differently. Hopefully these little pictures give you a snippet and a sense of how this company thinks differently, and it's a part of their culture and DNA. Next, I'm going to talk about perseverance, and this is the last one. This is really, really, really important in India because, company building is tough. There's all this macro gloom and doom. It is much tougher in India than it is in other parts of the world. And it's very tempting for entrepreneurs to take shortcuts. Repeatedly, I have had entrepreneurs who have said, sometimes they have asked questions like, hey, I'm able to find this database that I can buy for a few lakh rupees and I can get millions of email addresses. Should I spam it? And they said, absolutely never. Hey, I can hire XYZ person, but they shouldn't be hiring that person for whatever reason, intellectual property reason, and the answer is never. This is really important. It's all about having very high integrity through those 10 or 15 years. If at some point your integrity is compromised and you start to take shortcuts, then that journey, the 10 or 15-year journey, may not be worth it in the end. And so there are several things here that we have tried to distill from what we have learned, but this is amongst the most important. Grit and deep commitment. And then staying focused. Lots of entrepreneurs, especially when they have periods of success, will have a very natural propensity to expand and defocus themselves and try to do too many things. And it really hurts companies when they prematurely start to do too many things. And then winning long term. So I'm going to talk about a company called Sayo Health Analytics. Also not very well known in India because they almost never do any PR. And the founders, some of the founding team is based in Chennai and in New York. So it's a dual shore company. But here's the quick history. We made a seed investment in 2007. Sayo Health Analytics does cost containment services for US health plans. They have software platforms, algorithms that help to save US health plans money. This team knew a lot about this market, but the start of Sayo Health Analytics was actually really, really challenging. This team had lots of experience, and the strategy was we'll buy some interesting pieces of technology and IP, and we know how to apply it, we know how to go to market, we'll be able to package it. The first two acquisitions failed at Sayo Health Analytics. They missed every single quarter. And this is a really good team. This is not a team that was a B team by any, this is an A+ team, but they missed every quarter for the first 2 years of their founding. And that was tough. It was very tough. It was also tough for their confidence. There was cost cuts, there was layoffs in 2010, and then they launched new product lines. They did one more new acquisition in Jan of 11. And then from Jan 2012 onwards, the company took off. To the point where, in a very short period of time, this year's sales are expected to be about 300 crores. And this is calendar 13. And when you were sitting in 2010 doing all those cost cuts and going through difficult conversations, trying to right-size the company, this was inconceivable. This is absolutely inconceivable. And all kudos to Siva and the management team at Sayo Health Analytics for really digging in and doing all the right things, taking the pain, doing the things for the long term, and saying, hey, until we can figure out how to build our business in the right manner, we missed all these plans, we're going to take a step back and really think about, go back to the drawing board. And has ended up being a very, very nice investment, but more importantly, a terrific turnaround story. So with that, those are the 4 stories I had for you today. My parting line is, keep trying. This is really important. Keep trying to get better, not just to stay in business, but keep trying to get better. And we find that this really, really moves the needle for companies. So before I go to a quick fireside chat with Ambika from Mu Sigma, where I'd love for her to tell us a little about the Mu Sigma story and how they've built this incredible culture, which is, by the way, one of the hardest things to do. It is easy to copy strategy. It is easy to build technology and say, hey, X storage has so much speed, and my storage has better speed. But it's almost impossible to copy culture. So we'll have Ambika in 2 minutes talk to us about that. But before that, I want to make a quick announcement, which is that TechSparks has been a very important platform for us at Sequoia to actually meet new and interesting companies. So the announcement today is there was a TechSparks company from 2011 that we have made a Series A investment in that we are announcing today, which is an idea device. So Saju is here in the audience, and you will see him on a panel later today. And a few years later, Saju, you have to make sure you make it to the to the set of slides here in terms of having a long, enduring business. But he and his co-founder Aditya are doing an incredible job building a cloud infrastructure automation platform. So we're delighted to have invested in Idea Device, and thanks to your story for having connected us with them in the 2011 version of TechSparks.